Hey everybody, Cody Meyer here, and one of my favorite things to do in this whole entire world is catch jumbo magnum spotted bass. Growing up and living in Northern California, I'm fortunate to have these huge spotted bass all around me. A couple lakes in particular, Bullard's Bar, Whiskey Town. They're the two lakes with world record size spotted bass, world-class spotted bass. And the reason is kokanee salmon. It's a landlocked salmon that the state will plant. And these spots, now when people talk about big spotted bass, these spots in California came from Smith Lake, Alabama in the 70s. So they're the same spotted bass from Smith Lake that you can find across the country. But with that kokanee salmon and these big trout, you get these world record size spots. And it's really a different animal. These spots, when you're in these lakes, they do a couple things. They live on long points, big island tops, most of the time main lake, and they're really, really deep. This kokanee, like I said, it's a landlocked salmon. They live from 100 feet of water. Maybe they come up to about 25 feet. So they stay deep pretty much year round. And the fall, the winter, and the spring, those big spots will come up with the kokanee, and you can catch them. Now, a couple different ways you can catch them, but the best way for me is throwing a little Strike King Rage Swimmer, and then Strike King Ocho. And what I do with this Rage Swimmer, now think about this lake, there's no bait fish, there's no pond smelt, there's no shad, there's just kokanee salmon. They feed on a plankton. And so you ask yourself, why throw this little bait? You should be throwing a big swim bait. But the water's so clear, 40-foot visibility, that they can see so well. And this is one of those things that when it falls by their face or it swims by them, they can't resist it, and you're gonna make those pressured fish really bite. But the setup is gonna be key, for me. So I'm gonna start off on a long point. Say there's a big long tapering point that we have out in California that go way out into the lake. Those typically seem like the best because, as the kokanee swim over the top of the point, the bass can really ambush them. So they're not gonna be on the short points, on the bluffs or anything like that. There's, several points that are always holding fish, and that's gonna be the key. But light line, spinning rod, spinning gear tackle is going to be the best. I prefer a Seagar, a 6 to an 8 pound fluorocarbon. I like a longer rod. This is a Daiwa Tattoo Elite rod, 7-foot 4-inch rod. It's kind of a medium action rod where you can really make a long cast. But one of the big keys is the braided line. So it's a yellow or a high vis braid is what I'm going to use. And why that is a key is because when I throw that out there, and say it's this little Strike King Rage Swimmer, a 2.75 inch, I'm gonna throw it on a little ball head. But when I throw that out and I'm letting it sink, I'll make a cast and I'll let the braid lay on top of the water, okay? And the whole time I'm gonna be watching that braid. And this is kind of like fly fishing, where you're gonna have this braid be a strike indicator. You're gonna see that line jump, and right when you get that bite, you have to set the hook. These big spots are so smart now that I've seen them so many times, grab it and drop it. And typically when you get a bite over open water, maybe down 20, 30, 40 feet down, over 100 feet, that is the big one. Because typically these big spots, they never go to the bottom. I mean, every time I throw a bait and let it go to the bottom and drag it around, I don't get bit. So that's gonna be key. And again, the Strike King Rage Swimmer, this is an electric shad color. This is probably my favorite color. Throw it on a little ball head, owner ball head with a 2-aught hook, light wire, 1/4 ounce, again with 6 to 8 pound tests. Make a long cast, and again, there are those long points that you have to visualize. Fish are going to be sitting on to wait for kokanee to go over top of the point, ambush them. So one of the keys is definitely the rod and reel. This is a Daiwa Tattoo Elite rod, 7-foot 4-inch rod I designed for fishing, for catching these big spots. It's a longer rod. You can make a really long cast, but it's very parabolic, where when you set the hook, you're gonna be able to fight the fish with this light line and not break them off. As far as the reel, I like this Daiwa Tattoo LT. It's a light and tough. One thing I love about this reel, for one, got an amazing drag, which is going to be key with light line and big spotted bass. But also, it's got a really high gear ratio, which in years past, everyone complained about a spinning reel thrown out there, not being able to catch up to the fish, pick up enough line. So this is a high gear ratio spinning reel. They come standard in this Tatula LT series, that once you get that bite with a longer rod, you can set the hook and you're gonna catch up to that fish a lot quicker. You get a lot better hook set, And really, that's going to be key to hooking a lot more of these big spotted bass. Really, guys, doesn't get much better than that. Love big spotted bass. Hope this helps. Catch more fish.